This probably happened when I was in 4th grade. There was a railway on the edge of our village, and there were several trains that ran through it every day. We went to school and sometimes walked along the railway after school, which made us very excited. The railway was also the birthplace of a game, which was to test courage. "The train is coming! Who's gonna go first?" said my companion. When the train was approaching, one of us suddenly jumped on the railway and waited for the train to be the nearest before jumping out. Not everyone dared to play this game. Only Ben among us dared do it. Every time I watched him jump off the railway, I sweat because I was worried he would be crushed by the train under the rolling wheels. Seeing the train rumbling and standing next to the railway, I felt my legs soften. This was really a scary game. Ben just stood there waiting. The train was rushing at a terrible speed. Wait until the train was just in front of Ben when he quickly jumped to the side. Suddenly, the train sped up like sparks, causing Ben's clothes to be thrown up and the train giving off a lot of smoke. For this dangerous game, none of us dared to do it, and although that Ben was the bravest. At that time, I was still a child and didn't know anything, even admired him and wished that I could be as strong as him. When I was at home, I often practiced by pretending that there was a train rumbling ahead. When the train came to my sight, I quickly jumped to the side and dodged it perfectly. My mother found it strange, so she asked me what I was doing to keep jumping around like that. Maybe it was because I was too young and I didn't think it was a terrible thing. I said, "I'm practicing dodging the train. Ben is very good at dodging." But my mother didn't think so. Almost every day she had to tell me not to play near the railway. That is very dangerous. But I definitely didn't listen to my mom because it was okay for Ben to do so. As a result, my mother beat me and forced me not to go to the railway area to play anymore. I still didn't understand why other kids could do it, but I couldn't. I cried. My mother said that as reckless as Ben was, one day he couldn't jump. He would be ran over by a train and die. It was horrible to hear such words. My grandmother came into the house, thinking that what my mother said was a bit too much for Ben, so she asked my mother why she said such cruel words. My mother didn't mean it that way, but she was so worried about me that she uttered such careless words. She pulled me to the side of the table and helped me to get rid of my mother's whip. She also told her not to say such things in front of me from now on. Then she taught me about the unsafety of playing on the railway and told me to listen to my mother. Then, my grandmother and mother joined forces to let me draw my lesson. I also gave some examples to refute, but none of them worked. I could only choose to eat with my head down and nod in agreement without saying another word. On the day the incident happened due to a fever, I begged my mother to let me skip school and stay home to rest. In the afternoon, I heard someone calling outside the gate. Yang came to play with me after school, and he was in the yard talking to my mother. But my mother refused to let me go out with Yang because I had a fever and needed to rest. I'd been staying at home for a long time, so I wanted to go out and play with Yang for a while. I ran out as soon as my mother was closing the gate, but I stopped because my mother insisted on not letting me go out for fear that I would run out with my friends to the train area to play. I said I was almost fine, so I wanted to go out for a while, but my mother was adamant and it made me very angry. Mom said I was still sick and told me to go out only when I was completely recovered. I didn't want to go back inside, so I kept begging my mom to let me go out, but almost all my efforts were in vain. My grandmother came out of the house and asked what was wrong with us. I looked at her with pleading eyes. I told her that I wished she could talk to her so she would let me hang out with Yang for a while. So she told my mother to let me go out for a while, that I would be right back, and told me not to go to the train area. As soon as my grandmother agreed, I didn't care whether if my mother agreed or not. I immediately ran out of the gate. I ran for a while and still heard my mother telling me to be careful and come home early. After I went out, Yang and the others were long gone, but I could guess that they went to the train line, so I ran there. I started to gasp after running for a while because actually I was still tired and tried to run as fast as possible. Maybe because I was sick and had a fever, I felt weak, my legs were light and even a little dizzy. As I approached the train line, I saw a person walking in front of me who looked very familiar. Seeing that it was Ben, I wanted to catch up with him. I shouted loudly, but Ben didn't react at all. I still tried to keep chasing him, calling loudly, but Ben still didn't hear and kept walking. He ignored me and walked away carefree. I didn't think I called out so loudly that he couldn't hear. I thought he purposely pretended not to hear, so I sped up. But strangely, I was running and he was walking, and I was stunned because I couldn't keep up with Ben. After chasing a bit, he turned into the woods on the side of the road and did not continue towards the train track. I thought he wanted to hide something and scare me, because he was that kind of character who always created unexpected situations. When I looked into the forest, he was gone. I didn't know where he went. Ben just vanished into thin air. There was a cemetery and I mustered up the courage to lean forward, but I couldn't see Ben at all. I thought he was hiding somewhere, so I called his name out loud in front of the cold graves. My voice really echoed in the graveyard, and it sounded like a very scary sound, screaming. Maybe it was because I was sweating all the time while running. At that moment, I felt chills spread through my body. I didn't care that Ben was hiding in the graveyard anymore. I quickly ran towards the train track. A strange thing happened next. I saw Ben and Yang gathering at the edge of the railway from a distance. What struck me as strange was that I clearly saw Ben disappear into the graveyard, but didn't see him come out. How did he get to the track before me? But I was so familiar with Ben, how could I be wrong? Unmistakable, I was quite sure. I didn't know if Ben had always been ahead of me. Was he intentionally hiding something to scare me? He said he was by the railway all the time, and I didn't think he was lying to me. I was about to tell him I saw someone like him, but Ben interrupted me and said the train was coming. He watched the train slowly approaching, and the rumbling sound of the train in the distance made us a little scared. Ben jumped on the railway first and asked if anyone dared to challenge him with courage. One of us was Yang. He said he was going to challenge Ben, and then Yang stepped on the rail. This surprised Ben, because no one had dared to compete with him before, but Ben still looked confident. I had a weird feeling that day, so I just said that they shouldn't compare themselves to each other and do something that's too dangerous. I howled, "Go do something else, guys!" But Ben didn't take any advice, and he seemed very excited. He urged Yang to do the challenge with him. The two of them were standing next to each other on the railway, waiting for the train to come. My heart almost dropped when I saw the scene. Watching the train from afar, I imagined what would happen if they didn't jump out in time. When the train approached, Yang was clearly scared. Ben also looked scared, but he still kept a calm expression. When the train was a few hundred meters away from them, they should have jumped right now, but they were still standing there, not moving. Yang couldn't wait any longer and he jumped off the rail as fast as a squirrel with a panicked expression. Ben looked very confident. He didn't look scared at all. We were restless and worried about Ben. The train was coming and we were all screaming, trying to get him to come back here quickly, because if it was too late, no one knew what could happen. Ben intentionally paused again, so he could feel the wind brought by the train before jumping off the tracks. But that time, Ben didn't have to jump out, and the train sped in front of us and past him. All three of us were scared to death. especially Yang standing in front, his face and body covered with Ben's blood. Ben was killed by a train. Yang was extremely panicked. From this moment on, I was really terrified. After this incident, I stayed at home for more than a week before going back to school. More than 10 years later, I had not been near the railway ever again. Even when I heard the train, I was nervous and sweaty because of that terrible childhood experience.